The movie opens with a haunting scene of a woman, Shuya, walking alone in the pouring rain at night. Her solitary figure, illuminated by the streetlights, cuts a lonely figure against the dark and stormy backdrop. She arrives at a place that resembles a temple, but the atmosphere is far from serene. The temple exudes an air of mystery and an almost tangible sense of negativity. Shuya's expression is one of deep sorrow, and we soon learn that she is grieving the loss of her child, Anan. In her desperation to find solace, she encounters a temple assistant, to whom she offers her husband and child's horoscope. The assistant shuns her, saying that the high priest said that her horoscope is ominous. With no other choice, she offers him a substantial bribe. Shuya pleads with him to arrange a meeting with a priest, who is rumored to have the power to bring back the deceased. The assistant looks at the groveling woman and grabs her birth chart. In this world, horoscopes are not just predictions, but powerful tools believed to influence one's fate and destiny. He gives it to the priest, who takes the horoscope and begins a ritual that seems equal parts sacred and sinister. Shuya, desperate and hopeful, watches as the priest performs a series of enigmatic actions. The ritual culminates in her being made to drink a black liquid, thick and viscous. As soon as the liquid passes her lips, Shuya's body convulses violently, her eyes rolling back as if possessed by some unseen force. She vomits blood and crawls to the altar, thanking the divine beings that helped her. The scene then shifts to years later, introducing a young man with the name Adai. Adai is an intriguing character, harboring a secret crush on a girl named Yufin. He too has had his share of supernatural encounters, including a demonic incident in the past that continues to haunt him through vivid and disturbing nightmares. Adai resides in a temple with his father, Alex, and we learn of his unique ability, the Ghost Hand. This Ghost Hand is not merely a figure of speech. It is a literal possession, albeit limited to his hand. This supernatural occurrence grants him the extraordinary power to repel evil spirits, almost like a superhero hiding in plain sight. To keep this ghostly influence at bay, Adai engages in a daily ritual of washing his hand with holy water and talismans. It is a quiet, solemn moment in his day, a private battle against the unseen forces that threaten to consume him. After this routine, Adai goes to the temple and greets his father. Their interaction is that of a normal father and son, bickering and arguing back and forth with a blend of warmth and respect. Adai then turns to prayer, addressing a goddess with an intriguing title. He calls her grandmother. This prompts the question of whether there is a literal familial connection, or if it is a figurative expression. It is a mystery that adds a layer of depth to Adai's character and the world he inhabits. On this particular day, a gambler visits the temple, his eyes desperate as he seeks blessings for better luck in his bets. However, Alex, a man of strong principle, promptly turns him away, making it clear that his temple does not entertain such foolish pursuits. As Adai sets out to meet Yufin, his heart flutters with anticipation. He presents her with a flower, a sweet and simple gesture, and gathers his courage to confess his feelings. Yet, just as he is about to speak, their mutual friend, Chang, arrives, unintentionally interrupting Adai's plans. The trio heads to their karate practice, where they learn of an important aspect of Taiwanese culture, the Ghost Month. It is a time when the veil between the living and the deceased is believed to be at its thinnest, allowing spirits and gods to cross over into the mortal realm and grant wishes. This particular night is significant as it marks the annual ceremony where people perform intricate rituals to beseech the gods to grant their deepest desires. However, it is not without its risks, as the ceremony can lead to possession, a fact that becomes especially pertinent given Yufin's sensitive nature. It is revealed that Yufin's aunt, Shuya, has been missing for a year, and her disappearance weighs heavily on Yufin's heart. Yufin confides in their karate coach, who is also Shuya's husband and her uncle, about her plan to perform the ritual with Adai's assistance, relying on his ghost hand to keep her safe. However, the coach is less than enthusiastic. His dislike is quite evident on his face. Yafei, a fellow karate student, overhears their conversation, and jealousy begins to simmer within her. Yafei needs the karate scholarship money, and Yufin's apparent advantage fuels her growing resentment. Adding to the complexity, we learn that Yafei is the daughter of the gambler who visited the temple earlier. On the other side, Adai and Chang find themselves confronted by a senior named Dand, who bullies his way into the ceremony, insisting on bringing his own priest, Yuan. Yuan possesses the ability to see and hear ghosts, but there is something about him that sets off alarm bells in Adai and Chang's minds. Dan also decides to bring Yafei along, forcing her into their plan. The altered arrangement leaves Adai and Chang uneasy, sensing that the ceremony is veering away from its original intent. During a karate match, Yufan's victory over Jia Fei further exacerbates the tension between the two. Jia Fei's financial concerns reach a boiling point, leading to an argument with Dan, who, in a fit of anger, punches Adai, but the latter quietly takes the punch with no retaliation. Yufan, feeling responsible, quickly fights for and apologizes to Adai, unaware of the true reason behind Adai's restraint. It is the fatal power of his ghost hand. As night falls, strange occurrences begin to unfold, signaling that something sinister is afoot. A group of people dressed in white gathers at an unknown temple, their intentions unclear. Adai, after skillfully evading his father, steals the statue of the goddess from the temple, intending to use it in the ritual. As he leaves, the lights flicker and go out, an ominous sign that something malevolent is about to happen. Adai and Chang set out for the ceremony, their path illuminated by the moon and their flashlights. Chang is annoyed at the darkness. However, Adai, unable to shake this ominous feeling about the mysterious group, secretly follows them, leaving Chang unaware of his sudden disappearance. Chang looks behind him to find his friend missing and continues on his own when he encounters a street adorned with talismans and incantations, specifically the inverted swastika, not the Nazi symbol, but a sacred symbol in Asian cultures. This inverted swastika, however, carries a demonic connotation, signaling that dark forces are at work. Meanwhile, Adai's pursuit leads him back to the sinister temple, where he witnesses a ritual in progress. The priest is beating a woman with incense sticks, the air thick with the scent of burning incense and the sounds of chanting. Among the participants are Jia Fei's father, and a woman who bears a striking resemblance to Shuya. Adai is shocked to his core, realizing that he has stumbled upon an evil cult worshipping a demonic goddess. On the other side, Yufan, Jia Fei, and Dan are awaiting the arrival of Chang and Adai. The air is thick with tension as they prepare for the ritual. Soon, Chang arrives, alone, and relays the strange turn of events, Adai's disappearance, and the fact that he had the statue of the goddess. Before they can process this information, Yuan appears, carrying another statue of the goddess. He remains silent, his presence ominous. As he places the statue on the altar, Chang, sensing the potential dangers, advises Yufan to refrain from participating in the ritual until Adai returns. However, time is of the essence, and with the clock ticking, Yufan makes the decision to proceed with the ritual, accepting Yuan as the officiant. Yuan begins the ritual, stepping into the role that Adai was originally meant to play. He chants ancient spells and creates a black potion, mirroring the one Shuya drank. Jia Fei, Dan, and Yufan drink the potion, their faces illuminated by the flickering candles that surround them. As the potion takes effect, Yuan's behavior becomes erratic, his eyes wild with a demonic fervor. Jia Fei, Dan, and Yufan collapse in pain, their bodies convulsing as if something dark has taken hold of them. The statue of the goddess adds to the macabre scene, its eyes bleeding, a clear indication that this ritual is not of the light. Adding to the intrigue, Yuan is dressed in white, a subtle yet significant detail that links him to the cult encountered earlier. It becomes evident that his involvement in the ritual is not coincidental, and whatever he is doing is connected to the shadowy figures from the temple. Yuan calls upon the goddess, and she appears. Her voice, creepy and otherworldly, introduces herself as an immortal. She approaches Jia Fei first, asking what she desires. Jia Fei, driven by her financial woes, wishes to win the karate championship and secure the accompanying monetary reward. The goddess promises to grant Jia Fei's wish on one condition. She must agree to pay the immortals. The nature of this payment remains vague, which prompts a sense of unease. Jia Fei, desperate and impulsive, agrees to the terms without hesitation, seemingly unbothered by the unknown consequences. The goddess grants her wish, and Jia Fei's body shudders as if possessed by some unseen force. The goddess then turns to Dan, offering him the same deal. Dan, too, agrees to the mysterious terms, and the goddess grants his wish. As the goddess moves towards Yufan, the tension rises. Yufan, driven by her love for her missing aunt, Shuya, wishes for her safe return home. Like the others, Yufan agrees to the unspecified payment, her desire to reunite with Shuya overriding any sense of caution. The goddess grants her wish, and the ritual concludes with all four participants collapsing from the exertion. Chang, who had been observing from a distance, rushes to Yufan's side, trying to wake her from her unconscious state. However, the ritual's aftermath takes a dark turn as it becomes evident that all three participants have become possessed. Dan and Jia Fei, their eyes glazed with demonic intent, attack Chang, their hands tightening around his neck. They try to make him drink the potion too. Just as all seems lost, Adai arrives and uses his ghost hand to exorcise the evil spirits from Jia Fei and Dan. Meanwhile, a possessed Yufan crawls towards the goddess's statue. her movements unnaturally jerky. Adai, with his ghost hand, exorcises the demon from Yufin, and the group breathes a collective sigh of relief as the danger passes. Yufin wakes up, her eyes shining with hope, as she shares the good news with Adai. The goddess has promised to bring back Shuya. However, Adai is troubled, having recognized that the statue they used in the ritual was not the same goddess he knew. He senses something wicked and demonic about it. This realization sends a chill down his spine. Chang, noticing Adai's unease, takes the statue, only to discover an inverted swastika on the altar. If it were not clear already, this proves the fact that the night's events were linked to the cult they had encountered. The scene shifts to the coach, who is deep in prayer, when suddenly a shadow falls upon him. It is his wife, Shuya, her presence both comforting and unsettling. Meanwhile, Chang and Adai return to the temple with Yufin, where Adai immerses Yufin in a tub of holy water, using his ghost hand to rid her of any lingering evil energy. This exertion proves too much for Adai, and he passes out, his mind drifting to the events of the previous year. In a flashback, we see Adai struggling to confess his feelings to Yufin before he can muster the courage. Their peaceful night takes a terrifying turn as Yufin becomes possessed. She attacks Adai and Chang, the scissors in her hand coming dangerously close to Adai's heart. Just as Yufin is about to deal a fatal blow, Adai's mother, Alice, appears and performs an exorcism, saving Adai's life. However, the injury near his heart remains, occasionally bleeding, a reminder of that fateful night. Back in the present, Adai wakes up, his mind still reeling from the night's events. Yufin, feeling refreshed, expresses her gratitude for Adai's actions. Adai, torn between his feelings and the truth he discovered about the cult, reveals that he saw a woman who looked eerily similar to someone. He wanted to say Shuya but changed his mind. Yufin, choosing to focus on the promise of her aunt's return, brushes aside any concerns. The boy, not wanting to upset her further, keeps the truth about the statue to himself. Adai and Chang return the original goddess's statue, but their actions don't go unnoticed by Alex, who scolds them for their secret ritual. Concerned for their safety, Alex gives Adai a protective pendant and offers Chang some holy seeds to ward off evil. He then goes to give Alice a call, asking her to come back as her son is getting into trouble. The woman seems to have foreseen the upcoming danger as well, as she cryptically mentions that what is to happen will happen. Meanwhile, Yufin finds herself face to face with Shuya in her home. Overjoyed, Yufin embraces her aunt, who assures her that the goddess will resolve all their family problems. However, the scene takes a disturbing turn as Shuya's nose starts to bleed, hinting at something amiss. Yufin, caught up in her happiness, fails to question Shuya's prolonged absence or the strange occurrences surrounding her. The next day, during the karate tournament, Yufin and Yafei face off once more, but this time, Yafei's eyes turn demonic, and she attacks Yufin with supernatural strength. Despite this advantage, Yafei loses the match, her powers seemingly ineffective against Yufin. Yafei's frustration boils over as she grapples with the curse that has taken hold of her. Her body convulses violently, her bones cracking, and she spews blood, a grotesque display that terrifies onlookers. Yuan, witnessing the scene from a distance, chooses to flee rather than offer assistance. Meanwhile, Shuya has created a makeshift temple in her room, complete with a statue of the goddess, to which she fervently prays. Adai and Chang, concerned about Yufin's well-being, arrive to check on her, only to find Shuya safe and sound back home. This leaves them bewildered. The coach, seemingly disturbed, prevents them from entering, but Adai leaves his protection pendant with the coach, asking him to give it to Yufin. That night, we find Yuan hiding in the karate club, his expression haunted. He hears a demonic voice, and the lights flicker erratically, heightening the sense of foreboding. Yuan, scared and uncertain, washes his face, muttering to himself, confirming our suspicions. It becomes clear that Yuan is indeed a part of the cult, having been promised his wish in exchange for performing the ritual. However, his faith wavers as he questions the existence of the goddess and the cult's true intentions. His doubts are short-lived as he hears the goddess's voice, and the sink fills with blood, signaling her malevolent presence. The demonic goddess takes control of Yuan's body, subjecting him to the same horrifying transformation that Jia Fei endured. His bones break, he vomits blood, and he crawls towards the lockers, compelled by an unseen force. In a chilling scene, Yuan opens a locker, and a red light engulfs him. He crawls inside, and the locker door closes on its own, sealing his fate. Moments later, the locker spews forth a river of blood, leaving no doubt about Yuan's grim end. Adai and Chang, unaware of Yuan's demise, pay a visit to Yafei, only to find her deceased, her body being taken away by paramedics. Yafei's mother is overcome with grief, but her father, a member of the cult, remains stoic, his expression cold. On the other side, the coach finds Yufin in a fragile state amidst her sleep and puts the pendant from a dye over her sleeping form. Just then, he hears Shuya singing from their deceased child's room. Upon investigation, he finds Shuya with a makeshift doll made of twigs, believing it to be their late son, Onan. Shuya, convinced that the goddess will bring Onan back, refuses to accept reality. The coach tries to reason with her, but the woman, driven by her delusion, strangles him. Then, out of nowhere, she kisses him, and they engage in a passionate yet disturbing sexual encounter, marked by the inverted swastika on her back, signifying the transfer of evil from Shuya to the coach. The following day, Yufin remains blissfully unaware of the darkness surrounding her, even after Jia Fei's demise. Adai and Chang, grappling with the weight of their knowledge, choose to keep silent, not wanting to burden her with the truth. The trio heads to the karate club, only to find it adorned with red talismans. Their apprehension grows as they discover the bloodied corpse of Yuan inside a locker, the phone still ringing, signaling the presence of something demonic. Finally, Yufin learns the truth, and they realize that a sinister force is heading their way. The scene then shifts to Dan, who works in a meat shop, mourning Jia Fei's demise. His grief turns to horror as he hears a phone ringing in a bucket of animal blood. Compelled by a supernatural force, he approaches the bucket, which turns out to be a mistake. An entity grabs him, and the evil goddess takes possession of his body, marking him as her next victim. The scene cuts to the coach, who finds himself confronted by Dan in the karate club. Dan blames the coach for Jia Fei's demise, arguing that better training could have prevented it. He launches an attack, but the coach, skilled in karate, knocks him down. However, Dan's body undergoes the now familiar transformation, vomiting blood and breaking bones. The goddess's influence proves too strong, and the coach flees, leaving Dan to his gruesome fate. On the other hand, Adai, Chang, and Yufin, realizing the severity of the situation, seek help from Alex, who scolds them for their involvement in the supernatural events. Alice, Adai's mother, has returned home, sensing the impending danger, and her presence slightly relieves Adai's anxieties. The younger boys then present the statue they acquired during the ritual, and Alex, along with Alice, reveals the truth. Alex explains that while people typically pray on the swastika, a holy symbol, some pray on its inversion, invoking evil. He confirms the existence of a nearby temple, a Yin temple, dedicated to worshipping demons who claim to be immortals. The cult believes that these demons can solve their problems, and their goddess seeks a human body to inhabit, which would make her unstoppable. Adai, piecing the clues together, concludes that Shuya is the chosen vessel for the evil goddess, considering her absence for a year and her presence at the cult ceremony. Yufin, distraught, wants to help her aunt, but Alice stops her, urging her to stay if she wants to save Shuya. Meanwhile, the coach returns home, only to find his house transformed into a sinister lair, adorned with ritualistic items and evil talismans. He hurries to check on Shuya, only to discover an altar in her room, indicating that she has performed a ritual of her own. As he approaches, Shuya, now fully possessed by the evil goddess, crawls from behind the altar and launches an attack on her husband. In a disturbing scene, Shuya bites the coach's finger, marking him with her evil influence. Alice, determined to save Shuya, begins a counter-ritual, using a voodoo doll to drive the goddess out of Shuya's body. However, Shuya senses their efforts and retaliates by attacking Alice from a distance, causing her to fall down. Yufin, caught in the crossfire, passes out. As if on cue, members of the cult enter Shuya's house, chanting demonic spells, their voices echoing through the halls. Shuya, now fully transformed, crawls down the stairs, her movements eerie and inhuman, sending chills down anyone's spines. The cult members treat Shuya as their goddess, carrying her on a throne as they take her away. Yufin, upon waking up, senses that Shuya is in danger and, driven by her love for her aunt, rushes to save her. Chang and Adai follow Yufin, despite Alex and Alice's warnings. The scene shifts to a jungle, where the cult has set up a ritual site, offering sacrifices to their dark goddess. We see 5 biers, 2 empty and 3 occupied by the lifeless bodies of Jia Fei, Dan, and Yuan, indicating that their demises were part of a larger, sinister plan. The cult leader begins his ritual, and as Adai, Chang, and Yufin arrive, they witness Shuya being beaten with incense sticks, her body crawling onto an altar. Yufin feels a heavy sensation in her head, a sign that the goddess is drawing near. Cult members see Adai and Chang, dragging them away, while Yufin experiences something wicked. Her eyes turn white, and she is lifted into the air by the cult members. It turns out that the evil goddess never intended to possess Shuya. Her true target was Yufin. The cult's plan was set in motion a year ago when Anand perished, and Shuya, desperate for help, turned to the cult leader. It is implied that the cult orchestrated Anand's demise and manipulated Shuya into believing that they could bring her child back. The scenario was carefully crafted, and the goddess's possession of her was all part of their scheme to ultimately take over Yufin's body. The ritual night marked the beginning of the goddess's influence over Yufin's mind, leading up to the current situation. The goddess requires a blood sacrifice of 5 people to fully inhabit Yufin's body. This explains the 5 biers, with 2 now occupied by Adai and Chang, still alive but tied down. The cult makes cuts on their hands, allowing their blood to flow into bowls, mixing it with the blood of the other victim. Meanwhile, Yufin is brought near Shuya, who pleads with the goddess to leave her aunt alone and take whatever she wants from Yufin instead. Unbeknownst to Yufin, she is walking straight into the cult's sinister plan. The goddess agrees and makes a cut on Shuya's hand, using the bloodied hand to touch Yufin's head, initiating the transformation process. The leader then gives Yufin a blood bath, and the evil goddess leaves Shuya's body, entering Yufin. Shuya collapses, but Yufin begins to shake, signaling the goddess's presence within her. She then screams, and the entire place erupts in flames, adding to the chaos. The goddess takes control of Yufin, and in a split second, tears out the cult leader's heart. Meanwhile, Adai, using his ghost hand, frees himself and rushes to Yufin's aid, attempting to exorcise her. However, Yufin, under the goddess's influence, fights back, strangling Adai and twisting the area of his previous injury. Chang also frees himself, and Alex and Alice arrive at the scene. Alice, without hesitation, chants spells to save Adai, who has fallen unconscious. Yufin, now fully possessed, crawls towards Alex and Alice, attacking them. Alex manages to grab Yufin, and Alice, understanding the severity of the situation, prepares to end Yufin's life to save everyone else from the wrath of the goddess. However, Adai, driven by his love for Yufin, stops his mother, unable to bear the thought of losing her. The goddess seizes the opportunity to escape, but Adai pursues her, catching up to her in the middle of a burning tent. He uses his ghost hand to perform the exorcism once more, but the goddess resists, claiming that he cannot defeat her. In a powerful moment, Adai's love overpowers the evil within Yufin, and he successfully exorcises the goddess. Yufin returns to herself, but they find themselves surrounded by fire. The two embrace, and the tent collapses, leading Alex, Alice, and Chang to believe that Adai and Yufin have perished. The scene shifts a few days later, where we see Alice preparing to leave once again, and the demeanor of both her and Alex hints that their child is still alive. We then cut to a scene with Chang, Adai, and Yufin, who has come to meet them. It is revealed that Adai and Yufin survived their ordeal in the hospital, and that the exorcism has resulted in Adai's ghost hand spreading to Yufin, giving her the same supernatural ability. In a heartwarming moment, Adai admits his feelings for Yufin, and she reciprocates, marking the beginning of their love story. The scene then shifts to the coach and Shuya, where Shuya has returned to her normal self, regretting her decisions and the pain she caused her family. The coach, however, assures her that he has found another way to save Anand, and offers her a cup of tea laced with a red talisman, indicating that some of the evil from Shuya has transferred to him during their intimate encounter. The movie ends with the Yin Temple's door shaking, foreshadowing the continuation of the sinister events.